Good afternoon. The Finance Committee is being called into session. We have a quorum. To my left, Councilwoman Sherelle Parker. To my right, Councilman Bill Greenlee, Councilman David O, Councilman Alan Dom, Councilwoman Cindy Bass. Thank you. We'll ask the clerk to read the title of the bill.
170623, an ordinance authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the Sinking Fund Commission for the payment of such bonds, authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with issuance of bonds, and certain other actions, providing for obtaining the consent of the electors to increasing the indebtedness of the city, and fixing a day and providing for arrangements for holding the election for obtaining such consent.
Thank you very much. We'll invite those who are going to testify forward. Thank you very much. Please identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Blackwell and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Rob Dubo. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 170623, and with me is Palin Chen, the Capital Budget Director. The purpose of the bill is to obtain approval to place a loan authorization question on the general election ballot on Tuesday, November 7th. The loan question requests an increase in indebtedness in amount not to exceed $172 million, and that's to fund the FY18 capital budget that was recently approved by City Council. State law requires the city to place a question on the ballot before increasing its borrowing authority. As you can see from testimony, we have plenty of borrowing capacity remaining. The testimony also lays out how the dollars were allocated in the capital budget. In order to provide appropriate time to advertise the ballot question prior to November 7th, the bill should be reported out and receive first reading no later than June 22nd. And finally, attached to the testimony is the proposed ballot question. I respectfully request you report the bill out of committee with a favorable recommendation, and that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading at the next session of council. That concludes my written testimony, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. DeVoe. Are there questions? Councilman Dom?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know it's in the paperwork, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. On the municipal buildings, for example, of $95 million, is that basically repairs to existing buildings?
Yes, it is.
And have those jobs been bid, or they're to be bid?
No, so this is for the money that's in the FY18 capital budget. So this isn't for work that's started yet, and the money won't be available until the election results are certified. So none of this money is available until December, so the work really won't start until then.
So this has to go through the whole process. We're just authorizing it.
Correct.
In your experience, when we authorize this amount of money, what percentage is typically actually invested?
In spend?
Like, are we going to really spend 95? We're going to spend 75 or 80?
So what we do, the way we determine when to borrow is really on cash needs. So when our cash gets low, we borrow again, and we typically spend it within really 2 years, and then we borrow again. So it's just based on, so everything that we borrow is spent.
So this is, when we do these projects, it's not based on a drawdown on a loan. We go out and borrow the money and then put it in our account? Or is it
Correct.
So we pay interest whether we do the work or not. We're paying the interest.
Well, we borrow based on our projected cash flows.
Right.
And so the borrowing, it's kind of a weird dynamic where the borrowing won't list these specific projects. Right? It'll show what we're going to do for the following 2 years. This is just authorizing us when we're ready to borrow.
So it's not really for these projects, the money?
It won't necessarily be. It'll be for whatever we're spending over the following 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? That concludes our hearing. We'll now go into our stated meeting. The chair recognizes Councilmember Heenan for a motion on Bill number 170623.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 170623 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next council session. Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 170623 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and furthermore, that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading at our next session. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? The ayes have it. The motion carries, and Bill number 170623 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and a request that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading at our next session of council. Thank you very much. This hearing is completed, and thank you all for being here, and let's getting it done very quickly.
Thank you for getting it done so
Thank
quickly.
you.